political question really is who owns water and who gets to control water. Here you're going to hear, or you are hearing, two very, very different visions of a future for water. On one side are those who see water as an economic good, to put water on the open market for sale to the highest bidder. On the other hand, you're going to hear the voice of a growing civil society movement who has a vision of water as a part of the global commons and treated as a public trust for all time by governments everywhere. Well, I want to tell you about one country tonight, and that's the country of Bolivia, South America's poorest country. Several years ago, the World Bank refused to guarantee a $25 million loan to finance the investment program of the local water co-op and forced Bolivia to sell its water systems to a subsidiary of Bechtel. The water prices now account in Bolivia for more than they pay for food. Well, I have a story to tell you tonight, and that is that the people rose up in Bolivia.
Obrero industrial, y cuando en Bolivia se privatizó el agua, la gente, nosotros no podíamos concebir que un empresario privado, un inversionista transnacional, podía apropiarse del agua. Es decir, la gente o tenía que pagar del agua o tenía que dejar de comer, y por lo tanto no tuvo otra alternativa que decir no a la privatización del agua. Una rebelión popular, una forma organizativa de multitudes de gente, que desde los campesinos hasta los vendedores de las calles, y empezamos una resistencia. El gobierno sacó al ejército y a la policía para garantizar la seguridad jurídica de la empresa, garantizar las utilidades y las ganancias de la compañía.
But it's really interesting because, you know, the World Bank has imposed the same kind of private control and takeover of many other things in developing countries. Healthcare, education, their energy sector, their mines and so on. But when it comes to water, something happens and people say, I couldn't stop you there, or I didn't know how, or I thought maybe you would be right, but you are not taking my local water.
Asociados a una abierta complicidad de los gobernantes en ese tiempo en Bolivia, que inclusive se privatizó el agua de la lluvia, es decir, que se prohibía a la gente el acumular el agua de la lluvia.
And this is where you get the civil wars, because the army is brought in to control local dissent against these transnational corporations. Who are you protecting? There's your people without drinking water, and you're protecting foreign investors from North America and Europe?
Más de 100 heridos de bala, numerosos detenidos. Civil, hubieron más de 20 francotiradores que mataron e hirieron a la gente.
17-year-old Victor Hugo Doza was killed by a shot through his face. And just 2 days ago, the Bolivian government gave in and kicked Bechtel out of the country. Humble Bolivians, led by a 45-year-old, kicked one of the world's biggest engineering companies out of the country for its criminal behavior and told the World Bank to go the hell with it.
Bueno, 2 días después de la victoria popular, yo tuve la posibilidad de viajar a Washington. Primera vez en mi vida que salí a Estados Unidos. Segunda vez en mi vida que salía fuera de mi país.
And this simple shoemaker from Cochabamba, Bolivia, gave one of the most moving speeches I have ever heard.
Solo somos dueños del agua y del aire. The only thing that is ours anymore is our water and our air.
Posibilitó la pérdida del miedo que se tiene frente a los poderes constituidos económicos, financieros, políticos y militares. Es que la única fuerza capaz de transformar el mundo, capaz de transformar la sociedad, es esa capacidad de unidad, de organización y de movilización de la gente frente a cualquier poder.
Ya no es dueños casi de nada.
And people were so moved, they not only clapped for him, they got up on their chairs, like a standing ovation that wouldn't end. It was just a stellar moment because this is a really scary story, and it's a true story.
At what point does a corporation not understand that we do not want you there, and when will you leave?
मैं समझता हूं कि अब पूरी दुनिया में ये बात सिद्ध हो गई कि ये डिसेंट्रलाइज्ड वाटर मैनेजमेंट से सारे देश को दुनिया को पानी के लिए बचाया जा सकता है।
Oscar Oliveira, o líder da rebelião em Cochabamba, na Bolívia.
Después de 5 meses, más de medio millón de personas expulsaron a transnacional Bechtel porque quiso imponer un contrato de privatización totalmente al margen de la voluntad de la población. Varias de las transnacionales que están acá muchas veces manchan nuestra agua con sangre de los ciudadanos. No manchen más sus manos com sangue.
Contra todas as evidências da injustiça, o representante do Banco Mundial insiste na política de privatização.
Somebody has to pay for water, ladies and gentlemen.
Water for people, not for profit.
Enough is enough. I see this report as nothing short of an attempt to package poverty for money and for profit.
El agua es un patrimonio de la humanidad, es un patrimonio de los seres vivos y nadie puede apropiarse del agua. Por lo tanto, la sociedad civil dice que aquí no hay acuerdo.
The Chinese, the symbol for water, not only means water, it means control, which I think is quite profound in the sense that controlling water is everything.
And the word rivals, for instance, comes from Latin meaning river. The rivals were people standing on either side of the river throwing things at each other. And LA is part of what I call hydraulic civilizations, like Rome and its aqueducts was a hydraulic civilization. But there the longest aqueduct was 60 miles. The longest you have to go, once measured it, is 1,400 miles from the furthest source of water for LA to a home in the town. And LA has not yet figured out what its limit should be. I mean, it doesn't want a limit. In the LA area itself, which is about 18 million, if it was on its own water, it would only be 3 million. First thing LA is going to do is try to put a lot of farmers out of work and close down the farms and take that water. When the water system doesn't work, then the civilization goes.
We're going to see a whole new geopolitical picture emerging here where the world map will be rewritten and redesigned. They've already mapped out what are going to be the most intense areas of potential conflict in the next 10, 15, and 20 years. So the water-rich areas of the world are Brazil, Canada, Russia.
So these big superpowers are beginning to position themselves in such a way that water, like energy, is seen as part of their future security, including their military security, including their commercial security, and they're beginning to understand they have to secure future sources of water. I got involved in this issue in the mid-1980s when Canada was negotiating a free trade agreement with the United States, and the free trade agreement included water as a good. There was a statement made by one of the participants that Canadian water would be flowing to the United States Midwest from the Canadian North by pipeline within 2 to 5 years. Who knew?
And move that water into a crater in the Rocky Mountains, which would be kind of like a huge mega reservoir.
And nobody will stand up in our country to the United States administration and say, this is our water, because they know that the United States would consider that as serious as if we put missiles along the Canada-US border. It just would not be tolerated in the US.
In the new regime, where water is being treated like oil, the protection of that commodity is being ensured through a militarized defense.
And the good part of Brazil sits over top of the largest aquifer in the world, which is called the Guarani Aquifer. This is going to be a major source of fresh water in the future. Very recently, the United States has established a military base located just inside the border of Paraguay. As you know, the United States itself is running out of water. Water is becoming more and more a matter of priority in American foreign policy.
Este caso, no momento agora, quando os países tomaram conhecimento, já tinha sido aprovado pelo Parlamento do Paraguai.
It remains to be seen what will happen and what they're doing there exactly as to whether the purpose of that military base is really to secure a military presence at a very pivotal location for exercising some measure of control over the Guarani aquifer and water takings from the Guarani aquifer. I mean, there's no question that that region of the world is the Middle East of water in the future.
Wherever a river flowing free is now treated as the supplier of raw material as if it was oil, we have the generation of water wars.
And you're just going to see more of that as the technology develops to be able to suck water out of the atmosphere. Now you're going to find water from the atmosphere in clouds being stolen.
New techniques for controlling the weather are being tried. When conditions are right, rain is made to fall by seeding clouds with dry ice or silver iodide.
It's happening in China and some other places where a particular village pays for a plane to go up. They make it rain before the cloud gets to the next village. So there's real anger and real political tension.
A fome já não nos surpreende. Convivemos com ela cotidianamente, entorpecidos pela realidade que nos cerca. Caso o receituário do Banco Mundial seja seguido, teremos que aprender a conviver com a morte pela sede.
This is not a film about saving the environment. It's a film about saving ourselves. Because whatever one's environmental, political, or religious opinions, whatever one's race, sex, or economic standing, whomever of us goes without water for a week cries blood.
El servicio de distribución de agua potable. A poco de haberse establecido, los precios se elevaron exorbitantemente. El agua que se distribuyó en algún momento estuvo contaminada. Se llegó incluso a cortarle el servicio a una escuela. Los uruguayos, con una larga tradición democrática, promovieron la reforma de la Constitución,
where citizens were able to pass a constitutional amendment that actually established the right to water and forbids privatization.
That's the model that we've been using when we talk to groups around the world and the model that we're promoting. So we're looking for a small group of nations to begin a process within the process in the United Nations. There are some powerful countries opposing the right to water, most prominently the United States. To my eternal shame, my own country, Canada.
It has a lot of water resources, and they're concerned about having to send water to the United States.
China, Egypt, Australia, and possibly India.
They don't want to have to be responsible for providing their citizens water.
This is life and death what we're talking about, and I feel very, very strongly that we have to put ourselves out there on the line, and sometimes it can be dangerous, but we have people power on our side.
To the disapproval of the citizens of the small town of Freiburg, Maine, the water bottling company Poland Springs set up a plant. To appease the population, Poland Springs gave away a case of bottled water to the first 50 townspeople to visit their office. Led by 89-year-old Republican store owner Howard Dearborn, they poured the bottled water into Lovewell's Pond, back where it came from.
This week at the World Social Forum is being launched an historic organization, the African Water Network.
A world that is going to say no to commodification of our common goods like water.
To mobilize and protect Africa's precious water sources from abuse and from corporate theft.
Now we have a defiance campaign that says, okay, you can install your meter. After you turn your back, we take it out, we connect the pipes, and then we throw your meter away.
Probably the end result isn't going to affect any of us because we're going to be gone. But we're fighting for the people that are going to use it in the future, our kids and their kids. If we don't do something to save it, what are they going to have?